Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hormone Helper podcast. I'm Coach Andrew, your hormone helper from Fit for All Fitness. I personally coach over 1,600 men and women to help better understand their hormones so they can lose weight and get their metabolism back on track. With this podcast, you're going to hear from me and my special guests about everything from metabolism to thyroid to weight loss. And we even talk a little bit of sexy time as we chat to spread more knowledge thick like butter on your hormones. If you're ready to learn, I'm ready to share, so let's do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast, and I hope you had an amazing New Year's weekend. I don't know how you felt through your New Year's weekend, but man, what a whirlwind that I experienced. Lorna and I got to have an overnight spa date for my birthday. And then let's see here. We stayed over at some family's house over the New Year's Eve to watch good old, what's his name? Ryan Seacrest. That's Ryan Seacrest talk about the New Year's ball drop. And you know what's funny to me? I don't know about you, but I've seen that guy almost every single New Year's for the past 10-ish years easy. And every time I see him, I keep thinking to myself, that guy definitely got a 40-year contract for this. That, or maybe he just loves spending New Year's standing for like 10 hours in Times Square. But yeah, New Year's was good. Speaking of Times Square, there's one company I keep seeing every single New Year's in the past 3 years. Their marketing, I'd say, is hands down phenomenal. It's consistent. And that company is Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness is like the gym franchise that gets an average of 300 signups per location within the months of January and February. And they've got a genius play in which basically they sponsor all of those like New Year's glasses and New Year's hats. And that gives them basically that like putting back in the mind, you need to be thinking about your New Year's goal and how you want to physically change. So naturally, I think their hope is that you pick them to start their journey for the new year. But the reason why that was really, I guess, something I want to talk about in this podcast is like the majority of people transition through New Year's with like the following, I'd say, challenges or weekly frustrations, as I call them. And it's typically during this time of year where you tend to sit down and do almost like a full life's evaluation of what you've got going on. Heck, I even do it. Usually it's every 26th to the 28th of December. I take a couple of days to sit down and write down what success I had, which I celebrate. And then I write down my intentions, my goals, and my challenges that I want to overcome within the next coming year. So in doing so, I set new business goals for growth, in which I'm going to be doing monthly free masterclasses to provide more value to these guys. I set new health goals. And for this year, my goal of health-wise is to repair my knees so I don't have knee pain when I run. And then I tend to set goals, which are like other goals. So my goal this year is for travel, in which my plan is to hit 3 destinations by year end, because traveling the world makes me feel good. Now, there's one thing that I find while doing this goal setting and year assessment, and that is what inspired me, combined with the Planet Fitness stuff I saw, to do this episode today. And that thing is this: what if you find that you keep writing down the same goal and the same challenges year after year after year? That would suck, right? I know it's happened to me a few times before, where a few years back, my business didn't grow at all. And it like really left me feeling stagnant and doubtful if business was for me. It's also happened to me about 6 years ago when I was trying to get my hormones stable. But for the whole year, I was like bouncing around from specialist to specialist, not really getting any answers. That process ended up being really tiring, and I almost stopped working towards it entirely, almost accepting that I was just going to feel bloated and tired the rest of my life. Now, for most of the people that I speak to and come across as clients, the struggle that keeps appearing over and over again each year, that's almost like a January first start, is a struggle around weight loss and keeping weight off. They ask me questions like, why the heck is weight loss so freaking hard? Why is it that some people have it really easy when it comes to losing weight, and then there are other people that have a really hard time and they can't maintain the weight and they're always going up or down a pound? And they don't really have to change their diet and their workout routines. Now, the ultimate question comes up: what can I do if I'm struggling to lose weight? And that's a big aspect of this. So truthfully, weight loss doesn't have to be hard. The thing you need to understand, though, is that we tend to make weight loss super hard for ourselves because we end up fighting our own body during the process of improper weight loss. So improper weight loss, and maybe you have experienced it, looks like this. Losing the first 10 pounds without a problem, but then having a hard stall followed by the pounds come all the way back. It could look like dropping 5 pounds in a week, but then gaining 3 pounds back within the next 2 weeks and feeling super hungry while doing it. It also looks like putting yourself through a diet that gives you cravings for sugar and salt, and then it makes you hard to eat foods that you love. It makes it hard to maintain your way of eating, and then you kind of revert back to your old ways of eating. Now, the worst part of improper weight loss looks like this: not losing a single pound at all while you work out more, you eat less, and you put yourself through a high amount of stress. Nope, we're not doing that anymore. That sucks. Those ways of weight loss are really dumb. They're old, and let's be real, you're probably just as sick of trying them as I am of talking about them on a coach. So I want to talk about what real weight loss looks like, because when I'm working with our clients through a hormone reboot program, people typically lose like that 2.2 to 3.2 pounds a week, which is some steady weight loss. And during this process, they don't feel hungry, they never have cravings of any kind, and most importantly, their metabolism starts to speed up. And you can see that by an increase of things like body temperature, increased morning energy, as well as their digestion starts to get better and they start to have more bowel movements. When weight loss is done right, it's done once. The body doesn't feel like it's in danger, so naturally and gradually it releases the fat stored for emergency fuel because it doesn't feel that it needs that fuel anymore. After all, body fat is just emergency reserve fuel, so it goes without saying that if you tend to be storing more body fat, then your body probably thinks it needs it right now. Now, in order for this steady state fat loss to happen, though, a person needs to pass 3 body checks in order for your body's hormones to not be put into a state of shock or hormonal imbalance. This state of shock that I want to talk about is a result of when hormones change too drastically. So if you were to think of, let's say, your thyroid like a thermostat in your house, your hormones control kind of how hot or fast your metabolism can burn, or it can cool down or slow down your metabolism to save and conserve energy. If we experience the state of this drastic weight loss and this body shock appears, your body then signals your metabolism to conserve energy, and so your thyroid's going to start to cool you down and change your body's temperature, so to speak. Now, while this is cool and all in the moment, it completely halts our body from burning fat for fuel on a consistent basis. This is actually what causes fat storage in the first place, along with preventing the body from losing additional fat that we have. So what I'm going to share with you now are the 3 hormonal checks, or the 3 checks that your body needs to pass so you can lose weight safely and consistently without shocking your body and screwing up your whole freaking metabolism. Now, these 3 checks, by the way, they're also the same exact checks that I walk through all my clients to make sure that weight loss keeps happening consistently. And then my most successful client, I would say finishing last year, he lost 150 pounds. And like in just saying that number, and I keep thinking about this over and over again. I definitely have to have him on the podcast soon to walk through his journey. But for now, I'm going to share with you these 3 checks, because my biggest thing, especially going into the new year, is I don't want this thing continuously appearing on your mind over and over again. I don't want this to be the next thing you see when you're watching the New York ball drop on TV, because everyone's going to try to subliminal message you to get back onto your health goals. And that I just think is BS. So you can use these checks. These checks are a great way. And by following all 3 of these checks, you are guaranteed, literally, you are guaranteed, if you do all 3 of these checks, you are guaranteed to see weight loss and to see consistently. So check number 1, okay? It is the easiest check to pass, and yet you have no idea how many times people don't pass this one. So here it is. You need to eat enough food each day to cover your body's needs. Now, this might seem like an obvious one, But most people, when they try to lose weight automatically, they end up stripping away far too many calories, and that leaves them short on nutrients to build hormones, and it leaves them short on energy to repair damage and inflammation that builds up over the day. So all it takes is eating less than 500 calories of your daily minimum, because everyone has a daily minimum, less than 500 calories over the span of a week to force your body into fat storing mode. So for those who aren't sure like how much 500 calories is, it's literally shorting yourself one meal per day. This is actually why most diets don't work for weight loss. So an example, let's say keto. When you only eat fats during keto, it's really hard to get all the calories you need. So typically people undereat, and then you don't lose weight because it's more than that 500 calorie deficit. Or for a diet like intermittent fasting, you get forced into eating in a very, very tiny window, and then most people get 2 full eating meals back to back. So they end up skipping a meal because they're too full in the moment, which leads to a bunch of calories missing. And even something relatively healthy like going vegan or vegetarian is hard because most vegans and vegetarians don't get protein in because most proteins are easier to get in meat, and they miss a bunch of nutrients and a bunch of calories needed to keep and maintain the body's muscle and repair. So how does a person pass this first check? For 99.9% of people to pass this check consistently, it is all about eating enough calories to match your body's recovery needs and then still have calories to function daily. So in the industry, we call this your BMR, or base metabolic rate, which would basically be the totaled by the average amount of calories burned for your day. So if you look up on Google, that's going to give you a cool little formula. It's different for male and female, where all you have to do is plug in your age, your weight, and your height, and then it's going to give you that average total. So it doesn't have to be, here's the big thing with this average total, is it doesn't have to be 100% spot on. So if you calculate it and it says you need an average of 2,200 calories a day, if you're at 2,100, not a big deal. But if you're less than 500 calories each and every time over the span of the week, you're going to have a weight loss stall. So most days we don't need to eat exact, and typically we don't eat the exact amount of food as we did yesterday. But the importance of it is to be as close to that number as you can and to keep doing that daily. That's a number you have to hit daily. Because when you hit the number daily, you're making sure that you have enough nutrients to use the amount of energy that you're expending per day. So if we think about it in the form of a car, and I'm probably going to use this example later on too. If you think about it in the form of a car, if I fill a gas tank, I got 400 kilometers, but I need to drive 500 kilometers. Every time I empty the tank in full, my body has to then use fat reserves to then travel the last 100. So if I'm always under eating, and I'm always stripping calories and stuff from my diet, then my body's going to force me to store more fat because it knows I can't go the distance. And this should be such a simple check for people. And yet for some reason, people think in order to lose more weight, we have to eat less because that's what you've been trained. You have to eat less meals. You have to strip all of your carbs, and you don't. You need the energy for fuel. So this one is really, really simple. It's about making sure that you're as close to that number as you can every single day. Use that formula on Google for your BMR, figure out what that average is, and then start writing down what you're eating. This will allow you to see whether or not you're getting close to that number. Now for the second and third check, these are the ones where people tend to have kind of a harder time with, and they're the ones where a coach like me spends a lot of time on. Not to say that they're impossible, because they're not, but what it means is taking a closer look at your food, and it also means being aware of how your body is feeling in the present moment. So let's go into the second check. The second check is about having the right building blocks or food nutrients to make all of the hormones that we need to operate each day. So in food, there are two types of nutrients. The first is macronutrients, which I hope a lot of people are starting to get familiar with. And they're your proteins, your fats, and your carbs. But there's also a deeper level that most people don't talk about, and that is micronutrients, which means the vitamins and minerals that your hormones need to function. So, for example, like a good functioning thyroid needs vitamins like B12, zinc, magnesium, and selenium in order to create the three hormones it produces. So, your TSH, your thyroid stimulating hormone, your LH, your luteinizing hormone, and then FSH, your follicle stimulating hormone. Now, this is where food volume does not matter at all. The amount you eat does not matter at all for this check. But food quality and getting in the right types of food, that matters. So we could eat, again, using this 2,400 calories as an example, we could type in the BMR of 2,400 and we're like, okay, great. I'm eating 2,400, but still be short in certain nutrients in which you're not going to pass this check. So this is where now you might have to vary up your food or change the variety. So like a good example that I thought for this, and I love this, brings me back to my childhood. It's Lego. Lego's the freaking best. And if you are someone like me when I was younger, you probably have 2 to 3 full bins of hundreds of different parts and colors, meaning you could build really anything you wanted. I spent hours playing with Lego. Lego reminds me so much of nutrients that we need for our hormones. Let's say I only have green Lego pieces available. Can I build something red? No. If your body doesn't have the pieces or the vitamins and nutrients it needs to build a specific hormone, then it doesn't matter how much you try to make do, doesn't matter how much food volume you eat, the body's going to force you to store fat in an effort to get energy and get a few more building blocks than what you had before. This is why food variety is so important, why we can't eat the same thing every single day. You know, I had my mom buy me all kinds of different Lego sets because I wanted so many different pieces that I could really build anything. Now, if we eat the same foods every single day, or we're missing key foods within our diet, we start to lack the specific building blocks we need to build specific hormones. So what's the key to pass this second check? It's to make sure that your food intake, that you're intaking foods that have a certain amount of nutrients in hormones that are low. So typically for most people that I come across, thyroid function tends to be an issue as people get older. So, like I said before, you will want to focus on nutrients mentioned earlier, like B12, zinc, magnesium, and selenium. But let's say someone struggles with cortisol and their hormone cortisol is really low and their stress is really high. Well, in that case, we want to make sure that that type of person is getting enough B vitamins. So your B3, your B6, your B9, your B12. And this way we can, or these vitamins, I should say, we can get from high quality and healthy fat foods. Now, let's say you're someone who struggles with testosterone or estrogen, typically because one is out of balance with the other. You're finding that weight tends to be an issue all the time. Then you can aim to have more zinc, more vitamin D, and magnesium, along with making sure that you're watching the intake of foods that might have a higher estrogen profile, like soy-based foods. Doing this is going to ensure that you have an abundance of building blocks and nutrients, meaning that the body is not going to store fat because it doesn't need the extra building blocks to create. Basically, we get rid of your extra Lego bins. Easy so far, right? These first two, kind of simple. Pretty sure we can do that. That's a big aspect of it, is we want to follow, here's a big thing, we want to follow these in order. We want to go food volume first, making sure that we're not under eating. Then we want to go nutrients because we can always adjust nutrients. Okay. Now going into the third, actually before going into the third, the one thing that I want to say is like our hormone reboot program, it's largely about the second point, the point on making sure we're getting in the right nutrients. Because many people that reach out to me as a coach, they've got really big imbalances with their hormones between stress hormone cortisol, their thyroid could run down, which ruins their metabolism. They might have like an estrogen issue because weight's built up over time. The program is called the Hormone Reboot because we literally do, as the name suggests, we take about 8 weeks and we stabilize a person's hormones levels. We get rid of things like excess buildup of inflammation from the body. We get rid of hormone compensation, and we make sure that the body has the right hormone building blocks. And then we ensure that we work on a person's digestion so they can get rid of things like bloating or certain types of trigger foods. So that way they can actually start to lose weight sustainably and improve their metabolism to keep the weight off. Now, the Hormone Reboot program is actually currently on early bird pricing coming out of January, coming into January, which means that it's $200 off right now. So if you're ready to jump into January right away, you want to make that a change hormonally and physically for yourself, then I encourage you to check out the show notes, or you can head to our website as well. For those of you who are new listeners, because we've had a lot of new people reach out, our website is www.fit4allfitness.com. And then you can book a discovery call with me, and then that way we can chat about what your goals are and see if the program is a good fit to help and support you. But from a nutrient perspective, we focus a lot on making sure that we have the right nutrients, because a lot of times people are eating really healthy and really clean foods, but they're eating the same thing every day. They have no food variety. They have a hormone imbalance. They're not getting specific nutrients in. So nothing they do with the workout and nothing they do with the food works, which is why that's got to change. So we follow it in that order: food, volume, and nutrients all the time. Now for the third check. This one has nothing to do with food, but it kind of has to do with food. It's rest and recovery. So the reason why I say like rest and recovery completely affects from a food perspective is like it completely affects the way that we use those nutrients and Lego blocks that we tend to store and keep within our body. So just like chronic dieting strips away calories, which prevents us from repairing the damage of the day, we can eat the right foods in the right amounts, but not fully repair all of the damage in the body if we don't take the time to rest and recover. So it's actually during our sleeping, I should say really during the deep stages of sleep, that we use those blocks and we start to go through the body to see what is broken and start fixing what's needed fixing. Now, the problem that people experience with this checkpoint is of two natures. First, some people don't take the time to sleep for 8 hours. We go to bed crazy late, and for every hour that we short under our 8-hour minimum, we lose about 4 days of recovery. This is what we call sleep debt. And that sleep debt that we rack up, it automatically kicks us into fat storage overdrive because we need that fat for fuel to continue to keep us repairing during the hours when we're awake and functioning. Now, another way that losing sleep makes us gain weight, the secondary way, is not getting enough deep sleep. And this can be the one that's a really big challenge for people, where they're like, I'm sleeping 8 hours, but I'm not recovering. I still feel super exhausted. So this is where you need to look at the sleep stages. There's 4 sleep stages, and within each stage, more of our body shuts down to do checks and to make sure that organs and muscles are functioning the way that they should be. There are tons of people who do not make it past stage 2. So it goes 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Many people, about 68% of people, do not pass stage 2 in sleep, which means that they only have the opportunity to repair major things like organs and tissues, but they actually never get a chance to make hormones for the next day because that's at the very end of stage 3, or to repair inflammation that's lying and going around in the body. So they can't pass this stage for a lot of reasons. Could be too much caffeine or stimulus, which means their body can't shut down. Could be too much stress, which has been shown to always keep your body active to help you deal with stress in the moment. Or it could be things like using your phone too late close to bedtime, which keeps your brain stimulated. So how do we pass a check of rest? How do we get good quality rest so that way we can actually use the food and the nutrients in the way that's going to prevent us from or help us to lose fat? Now, the way that you pass this check is by doing the simple things every day to make sure your sleep routine becomes consistent, stable, and as good quality as possible. Here's some things that I recommend. Number one, you should go to bed and wake up at the same time every single day because you want to get your body accustomed to when your repair schedule is. People who have frequently shifting changes in their routine where they're not going to bed consistently at the same time traditionally wake up very fatigued because their body is trying to anticipate when they need to recover. So go to bed at the same time every single day and wake up at the same time every day. That way your body actually knows when your repair schedule should be. Second thing you want to do, you want to take an hour before bed to stop your screen time so your brain can shut down. Our brain, our neural pathways, brain being a muscle, it needs rest too. And if you're on your phone or you're watching TV all the way up until when you're going to go to bed, your brain is still active. It's still processing signals, and it can do so for up to 2 hours afterwards, which is why I always recommend people, you got to take at least 40 minutes of an hour before bed and don't look at screens. Don't look at blue light specifically. So either get blue light blockers if you have to do stuff for work, or don't use the phones and stuff at all but 40 minutes to an hour before going to bed to give your brain the opportunity to finish processing all the signals so then it can shut down. Because when it shuts down, then you're going to be able to actually start to work on your recovery properly, because anytime your body cannot fully shut something down, it will force the sleep process to restart. Whenever you're restarting your sleep routine, it starts always from the first phase, meaning you're not getting the proper hormones being built and you're not getting inflammation removed. Another thing you can do is number 3, take a cold shower prior to bed so that way your body relaxes and you can fully rest. Cold shuts down and opens up our nervous system. So that way, essentially, we start to produce more heat and our heart rate starts to slow down. As our heart rate starts to slow down, we become fatigued and then we rest. So it's a really easy way if someone has a really twitchy body or is a tossing and turner, that you can take a cold shower prior to bed and then your body will actually relax a lot better. Fourth thing, which I think is a really important one too, you should keep your bedroom dark and let no light through, as light can disturb sleep. That's why we wake up when it's bright. So you want to take that time to either pick up blackout curtains or make sure that you're fully closing your curtains, don't have night lights in your room, separate that stuff and just use an alarm clock, a manual one preferably, where essentially no light is subconsciously triggering you to try and get up and you can sleep as consistently as possible. So if you take the time to make sure that you are passing these 3 checks, the food volume, the proper and the right amount of nutrients, and then the rest of the recovery, the key is you have to do them in that order and at the same time. If you do that, then weight is never going to be an issue and your metabolism is going to regain the ability to speed back up, and then you're going to be able to start losing that weight consistently. It's simple stuff. This stuff is like not magical, but truthfully, I think we're always making our challenges super complicated and looking for someone to tell us that what we're experiencing and going through has some type of like super special or deep explanation. You know, it's funny now that I think about that. Like, I was actually thinking of doing a podcast episode soon. As a recent client of mine, Leslie, he talks about kind of the start of his journey looking for what he calls like the smoking gun. And I was like, oh man, what a beautiful way to say that. Like, he was like, I was always looking for like why weight loss has been so hard for me and why it's been such a challenge. And he was like, I'm looking for all of these, like maybe it's a medical issue or something like that. But I think it's really relatable. I think, actually, you know what? I am going to do a podcast episode on it. But I think for now, this episode's all finished up, we'll kind of put a pin in the smoking gun perspective and make sure that you do those 3 checks so that way your weight loss can start. And of course, if you need support, then you can check us out at our website as well. And I'm happy to see if the Hormone Reboot program's a good fit for you. But thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you tune into the next episode and stay healthy, stay happy. We'll catch you later. Bye. Well, it seems I'm all out of info juice for today. That's all for this episode, and thank you so much for listening. Please leave a raving review for me if you've learned something good, and make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Now, if you're in the mood for some more great content and tools to get your hormones on track, why not check out our free Facebook group and the blog on our site? We do amazing weekly trainings in our group that me and my wife call Tea and Teachings that give good tips for anything hormones and metabolism related. It's also a great community where you get to share your goals and success with like-minded people just like you. I'll make sure to drop both the Facebook group link and the blog link in the show notes for you. Or if you're ambitious like me, the name of the group is Weight Loss and Balanced Hormones. It'll say Fit for All beside it with a picture of me. So come and join us and have more fun.